Okay, well, let's get going. We've got most people here, so I'll just dive right in. Thanks for joining. This is our first EligioMonday.com user group. We're going to be doing this every week. It won't always be me. I'm Derek Major. I'm with Eligeo. We started the company about 13 years ago now. We've been a Monday.com partner for a couple of years now, 2.5 years. We were one of the first group of partners as well. So today is kind of the kickoff. What we're doing with these sessions is really to introduce some of the new features. As you probably noticed with Monday.com, there's a lot of new things that are popping up every week. So we want to also share some of that. There's also a lot of great webinars that Monday.com puts on, but of course we're going to do a little bit different of a spin as a partner with Monday.com. We're going to be sharing some ideas, some best practices. We have a couple thousand clients that we work with on Monday.com now. So there's a lot of different expertise and ideas that I think that could really help others too. So if there's something you want to share too, I mean, feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to, get you involved with this too. It's not just us speaking at you. This isn't really your typical webinar where it's, hey, let's, buy this product, buy that product. You're already a customer of Monday.com. So we're pretty excited to have you here and have you using Monday. So we're just hoping that we can share some lessons learned and some new things that we're working on internally too. So just kind of walk you through today through the agenda. The first thing I'm going to talk about is something that we have built. It's called a Monday.com uploader tool. One of the things you can do with Monday.com is you can import data using their import tool today. That'll actually create a board using the format that you have in your spreadsheet document. This tool actually allows you to go and customize your board and prepare your boards, and then from there upload data after the fact. So it's going to be a great little tool for people that want to be able to load in data after, every so often. Maybe they want to integrate a different system that might not have an integration yet. This is a great little tool that'll be able to take spreadsheets in. So I'm going to walk through that. It's still a bit in beta, but we're going to be launching that and making it freely available over the next couple of weeks. So anybody will be able to use this. So I'll look forward to that. We'll talk a little bit about best practices around importing data. There's a lot of things that you want to think about when you're importing data, but I'll also talk a little bit about structuring your boards too. That's one common thing, is that once you get into Monday.com, there's a lot that you can do in it, and there's a lot that you can customize, but you also want to make sure it's structured properly so that you can actually get the data in there and make use of it in an organized fashion. And that way you can kind of create automations. You can create different types of connections between boards to make it really useful within your workflow. And of course, we'll talk a little bit about a CRM concept that we're working on too, just using Monday.com boards. And I'll talk a little bit about automations. I'll actually create a couple, and we'll kind of walk through that, and then I'll open it up at the end for a little bit of Q&A. So if you do have any questions, I'm happy to answer them, at least the best I can. If not, we can always get back to you. But if you do have questions, Q&A, we are on a Zoom meeting. So if you take a look on your little menu bar in Zoom, there's actually a little QA button there. If you just want to click on that, if you do have any questions as we go along, feel free to pop them in there. I will revisit those questions towards the end of the call, and then I will respond to them at that point. All right, so let's get started. Like I said, we're gonna talk a little bit about importing data. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna share my screen here. So I have my webinar test board up here. I'm gonna come back to this in a second, but let's go ahead. I'm just gonna go create a new blank board. Actually, let's go grab one from a template. Let's just do a lead management board. And we'll just go here. So I'm going to walk through the upload tool in a second here, but what I want to encourage people to do is we're just going to go in here. We're going to go webinar test, lead management. So one of the things when you're building out your boards is trying to think about how you want it all to work. That's why it's really important that getting in here and actually just structuring how you want boards to link to each other, talk to each other, is really important. What kind of information you want to track. Getting data in is one thing to consider as well, and how you're going to do that. Drop downs and things like that, that's pretty straightforward on how you want to get these statuses and whatnot in there, dollar amounts, priorities. Where things get a little tricky though is assigning stuff. For instance, to assigning different people within your team inside of say a person column. Now, person columns, the trick with that is making sure that you have the right names, so like Derek Major or Ashley, making sure that it's spelt correctly and that we actually identify it as a person field, that we actually know that it's going to be linking it up. So you have to make sure that you have all of your users in there. So it's one of those things like garbage in, garbage out type of thing. You need to make sure you're considering what type of fields and kind of information you're importing. And that's very similar to like your status labels as well. So if you look at your status label, like call again, email sent, for example, on these, making sure that everything in your data import actually matches up to these labels to make sure that they match up when we do the upload. Otherwise, they won't get uploaded. So that's something to consider as well. And then there's certain fields that you'll see that we don't actually support yet. We're working on it. Like some of the custom columns, like with the priorities, and if we go take a look at, say, tags, those, and as well as timeline is another example, those are not quite capable of doing the upload yet. That will come over time, though, over the next few weeks. But there are, for the most part, dates and statuses, numbers and text, long text, those types of fields are all ready to go on an upload, so we can do all that. Now, there's lots of other things we're looking at, like files. We can't actually upload files yet. That's one thing people have asked us before, at least not through the API, but you can do it once you get everything loaded in there. But that's something to keep in mind when you're importing data. And then there's lots of other things like progress tracking, auto numbers that are not applicable, but the things that are applicable, like a dropdown. I'm going to talk about a dropdown in a second here, because that can be a little tricky, getting your lists inside of your spreadsheets back into the Monday.com board. So that's something to just kind of think about, is on the data import, is that fact, is how you want, what kind of fields you want, what you want to import. Another quick way of using that is to actually just export it to Excel. You can use that as a format, because when we do our import here in a second, I'm going to show you what we do is we look for the column header to kind of match up things. So if we know it says proposal here, we're going to look for that in the spreadsheet, and you'll see an example shortly on what that looks like. So let's go and let's jump in and actually walk through some data examples. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to share my whole screen here because I want to show you some stuff around Excel and whatnot. Let's go open up Excel. So this is an example of, this is actually a demo file we're going to load into our test board here in a second. But what I want to show you, what I did is I actually use a tool called Randat, and we're going to go randat.com right now, just to kind of generate some fake data. So let's go and grab some information, and let's say I'm going to pull out number of rows. We're going to generate some fake data here, and let's go save this as an XLS file. So if you're ever trying to find random data and you just need to populate some stuff for a demo, this is a great little tool that we use. So let's take a look at this file. I'm going to blow this up just so everyone can see this. So one of the things that you're going to want to do with the dropdown is going to be able to populate. This isn't necessarily just for doing data import, but this is a little trick that I do to get all of these inside of Monday.com. So first up, we need all the occupations on here. So let's go down here and just grab all these. You would hope, at least if you're doing occupation, or if you're doing some other category like gender, male, female, you want to be able to put that into a list. So the first thing we need to do is actually, I'm going to drop it into this column over here, and I'm going to use a feature inside of Excel to actually remove any duplicates. And what that does, it gives me a perfect list of unique entries. So now what I can do is go back to our lead management, and let's say we go drop in a drop down. Let's go find drop down at the bottom here. And let's say we call this occupation. Now, quick and easy way to get all that in there now is all you have to do is copy this, and we go back into Monday.com. We click on here and copy paste, and they are all in there. And just like that, I can go and add astronomer, physicist, or any of these other entries that are in there. So if you have any other kind of statuses, or any kind of other drop-downs you use, and say if you're coming from a CRM system, that's a great way to actually copy and paste and get the data in there. And you'll see with the upload tool in a second, we can actually map to these two. So it's pretty handy that way. So that's a little bit on the drop-downs. So let's go take a look at actually importing data now. So this is it's not the prettiest thing in the world. We have some user interface experts taking a look at this to clean it up. But for now, it is functional. So we're going to walk through this. So this tool is designed to be basic. We don't want it to be too complex. We want it to be really easy. So what the first thing you need to do is actually get an API key. To get that API key, what you would do is go underneath your admin, and from there you go to API, and then you would actually have to generate a V2 token, and you would do that by actually generating it right up here. Obviously, I'm not going to do it now because I already have a copy of mine, but that's where you would actually get the API key. So you grab that API key, and I'm just going to go grab mine from another window here. We're going to go paste it in here. I'm going to click on connect. So what it does now, it basically talks to Monday.com and says, okay, tell me what boards we have. So if I hit the drop down, you'll see there's our webinar test lead manager we just created. But the one I want to work with is webinar test. So if I click on webinar test, it's then going to pull in these fields. It's going to say, we need to upload a CSV file that matches these headers. So if I pop back over here under webinar test, there's full name, gender, occupation, experience, salary, just exactly what you see on this header here. So now what it's asking for is a CSV file. So to get a CSV file, if you've never done that before, all you need to do is go into Excel, File, Save As, and make sure your file format at the bottom is selected as CSV. And then you can just save that onto your desktop and you're good to go. So once you've done that, just go click on Choose File. I'm going to go pick that file right here. And all I'm going to do is click on Upload. And we're going to go back here and we're going to watch it all populate in here as we go along. So it's taken all of our CSV file and just dumped it right in there. And if I pop back to the uploader, you'll see that I uploaded 9 pulses to the board. So that's as easy as this tool is. So what we can map to is things like a status field, the drop downs, any numbers fields that we have on there. We also have long text and just regular text that you can import as well. And we're also, like I said, we're adding a bunch of other things coming along too. So this is a great way to add in some logic in there to actually pull some data into the system. So this is pretty slick as far as getting data into the system. So that's kind of, what importing data looks like. Once you have this data in here, there's lots of things that we can do with Monday.com as well. Is like in terms of automations and whatnot. Like if we want to be able to automate things, say someone becomes a customer. So I'm just going to put together an example here, but let's say we want to take active leads and mark them into won or lost on here. So we can actually use some automation to do that. So up at the top here, you'll see that you have the automation section. I can actually click on automations. And then from what I can do in here is essentially do all kinds of different workflows on my boards. So I'm going to go take a look at, say, status changes. And we have lots here, like when a status changes to something, move item to group. So that's the one we want to play with right now. So if I click on this, it then brings up, this is, by the way, probably one of the simpler workflow tools. Coming from a CRM background, this stuff is like night and day different and simpler by far. So it's easy to set up and get going with. So if I want to go and say, when a status changes to something, move item to a group. So what we can do is say when the, oh, you know what, I forgot what column that was. So the contacted field is I want to see when that becomes 1, I want it to go down here. So let's go back there to automations, to status changes. So when a status changes to something, so when a contacted changes to 1, we're going to move it to 1 and add to the board. But we're not done yet. We're going to add one more. We're going to add a status change when a status changes to something again, but this time we're going to do it when it's a loss, which we don't have as an option on there. So let's go at it. Let's go back, and this is kind of the versatility of working with Monday. So we're going to go lost. I'm going to make it red because that to me signifies eyeballs on it. That's not exactly red, but that's close enough. Let's go status change. when a status changes from something to something, so again, let's go find it on there. Let's find lost. Let's move it into lost. Let's add to board. So again, we have our two rules now. Whenever it changes, it's going to move between these. So let's go back here and play with that a little bit. So contacted, if I click on one, let's see what happens. There you go. It's moved it down. Let's go add a client number 4 as a new pulse. And, we'll just say negotiation, working on it, 100,000, et cetera, et cetera. And then if I go say lost, we should expect that to drop down as well. And there you go. It's down on your lost section. So that's a pretty neat little way of moving things around. There's lots of other cool things you can do too. I'm a big fan of linking boards. So I'm going to keep talking about automations here, but I'm also going to segue a little bit into, ideas around CRM. So if we take a look at, on my left-hand side, you'll see we have lots of folders and stuff. But we also have a couple of categories like CRM. So if you haven't set up a CRM before, if you're trying to, this is probably a very simple example. Where in the sales side, you might have your accounts. What kind of are they, customer, investor, competitor, what industry are they in? Who are the contacts? So I can see, Derek Major is related to Gull Construction. And if I click on Gull Construction, I can get more details about who Gull Construction is. And this is called a relate. So we actually linked to a account back here on Gull Construction. So what's cool about that is I can click on here and get some information on that active account back there on the accounts board. So that's a linkage on there, right? Opportunities is kind of very similar too. So these are the deals we're working on. So we got 100 blue widgets we're working on for Eligeo Business Solutions and whatever sales stage you might have with an expected close date of this or that, along with different lead sources and what type of opportunity is. So you can use this again to track, what accounts we have, what contacts we have for the businesses, and what opportunities we're working on. So we can also build some workflow out of this stuff. So if you're familiar with CRM, this will make sense. If you're not familiar with CRM, I'll give a little background on it. The idea behind CRM methodology is a lead comes in, and that'd be like somebody filling out a form on your website. The lead comes into your database, and then you need to actually qualify the lead, because you need to make sure that that's someone you actually want to do business with. They're actually the right type of client, and you want to see if you can actually work with them. So let's say Derek Major comes in. I could say, I can create some labels around this and say I'm working on it, or I can actually say qualified is say blue. We can say red is disqualified. So I can use these workflows again, and then I can call on automations. And then what I can do is actually move an item. So I can do something like, say, when a status changes to something, move the item to a board. So what do I mean by that? So let's say when the status of the lead changes to, we'll just use done for this example. We're going to move, I jumped ahead. We're going to move things to our opportunities board. And this isn't scripted, so I'm kind of playing along here as we go along. So there might be some hiccups as we go along here. So what we're saying is, let me just walk back. When the status changes to done, we're going to create a new pulse inside of the opportunities board. And in that, this window here actually asks me, well, what do I want to put on there? So if you recall, I walked you through the different opportunities and all that. So I can go in here, so what sales stage is it in? What the expected close date is it in? So I can actually put some different parameters around these if I want. So I could actually relate it to fields from the lead board. But let's say a new lead. I won't get too complicated with this. We'll say it's going to be in the in progress section. We'll hit save, and we're going to add that to the board. So now we've added another automation to the system. Let's just give this a second. Maybe. There we go. So that automation's now been added to the leads board. So if we go back here, again, if I change status on here, we'll just go hit, let me just show you quickly on opportunities. There's all in progress section. And if we go back to leads and we just go down here and click on done, it's now going to kick off the automation. So if I were to go back here, I should see it. It didn't work that time. So let's go have a look and see what happened there. So we can go back to our boards automation. When status changes to then move item to opportunities. So let's have a quick peek. So it should be new lead to the in progress section to the opportunities board. Okay, well, it should be working. So let's have a look. Hopefully it didn't. Oh, you know what? It was just a little bit slow. There it is. I'm a little impatient, I guess. So it did move across. So it took that new lead, it moved it down into the opportunity section here, and there's that Derek Major new lead. So the idea is that you can have a marketing person working through your leads and qualifying them and adding them to this board. And it can also, you can also automatically assign them to different individuals too. And that can be used to notify, say, a salesperson to actually follow up and to start working on these leads. And then they can kind of work them through again. If they do end up winning the deal, if they close the deal, it'll then drop that into your closed one bucket as well. So it's some workflow that you can kind of, if you want to set up, you can kind of do all that in here too. So I don't have a workflow on that one, but that's how you, or sorry, an automation. That's how you'd set up an automation for that too. So there's lots of little things you can do on the automation side to really create things that kind of interact with each other really well. So that's just doing a quick time check here. So we got about 8 minutes left. I'm going to kind of stop there right now. And I'm just going to quickly recap what we just went over. And then I'm going to open up for some Q&A. So again, feel free to add some Q&As if you have any questions specific. It doesn't have to be about stuff we talked about today. It can be about anything on Monday.com. Happy to answer those questions. So what we did cover off here is we talked a little bit about how to import data. We talked about our uploader tool, being able to take Excel and copying and paste those into the occupation table here, or into the column. We talked a little bit about the different columns that we can import inside of Monday.com as well, and which ones are actually compatible with the upload tool coming up. And we also did a walkthrough on the Monday.com uploader that we're getting ready here to launch, that will be freely available for anybody to use to upload data back into Monday.com. And of course, we talked a little bit about CRM. We talked a little bit about workflow automation and how things can work between different groups inside of your boards, but also inside of your different boards interacting with each other. So there's lots of little automation tricks that you can set up here to really create a nice system to allow you to manage your business throughout. So that's a little bit on today's topic. So I guess we'll open it up for Q&A right now. Okay, so I got one. How can I copy a board? This is from Jennifer. How can I copy a board? Can it copy all the contents? Yeah, so I think, yeah, assuming it's like one of these boards, if you want to be able to copy a board over, that's pretty simple. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can actually go right up here. I believe it's under, yeah, more actions. Under more actions, you can duplicate a board from here. You can also go down to, say, webinar test, and you can click on duplicate board. And then and this is the same window you get up there. So you can duplicate webinar test, for instance, and then from there you can actually hit a drop down and pick whether you just want the structure, if you want the items as well, or if you want the items and the updates. So that basically would copy it completely. But if you just wanted the structure, you could just copy that over too. So that's totally fine too. Okay. Next question, Gary, is the Monday.com plugin available in Monday, or do I have to pay for it? So no, it's not in Monday.com. We are a beta developer, so we will be building out it inside of here at some point. But to start off with, there will be a URL off of our website that you can utilize to use the uploader on. So that won't be a problem. Okay, Deborah, what if you have lots of status columns? I'm assuming for the import is what you're asking. Doesn't really matter. You can have as many columns as you want. It's really totally up to you. So there is a bit of a throttle on uploading data into Monday.com. That's one of the last things that we're working on, because you can only do so much through their API every minute. So, but it resets every minute. So depending how complex the uploads are, but yeah, right now there's no limits. We've done a max upload of at least columns on here of about 50 already. So and that was fine. That didn't have any issues on it. Oh, I mean to use automations. Thanks, Deborah. Okay, for sure. So just to restate, Deborah's asking about automations. If you have lots of status columns, depending on your package, I believe you have a different number of automations that you can have. I don't know that off the top of my head. That's more for the sales team. But you can add, a number of different. Let's go back here. We'll just try it right now. So leads, we have one on here, but you can go ahead and add other automations on here as you need to. So if we go status change, so you can add another one if you want to as well. So if you want to create different rules based on different things, the automation itself has to do with the board that you're on. So if you want to actually create different actions to move it around, you can totally do that. So if I want to say working on goes to in process, I can do that. So now I have two of them. So if status goes to done, we're moving at the opportunities. If it's in process, it stays on here. So let's have a quick look at that. Automation test. It's a little zippier now, so this is good. So if I say working on it, it'll just move it down there. But if I go done, it should move it over to opportunities. Oh yeah, we're working fast now. And then it's down here. So you can kind of combine them a little bit. Hopefully that answered your question. Okay, and that's it for questions today, it looks like. If there's nothing else, we got 3 minutes left. Oh, I think one just popped in. DJ, any plans to be able to publish to sync boards with shared Google calendars today? It's only personal calendars. I don't know the answer on that one. That's certainly something I can follow up with you on by talking to one of our partner rep at Monday.com. So I'll make a note there, DJ. Let's copy that. So sorry I don't have an answer on that, but I will certainly have someone reach out to you with an answer. And then Ali, is there a way to link the same item in the board so you can see that vertical view of the project information? Is there really the same item in the board? So I'm just trying to wrap my head around the question. So I think what you're saying is this. One thing I didn't put on here is I could go back and actually add a link as far as, and feel free to message back if this is not what you're after, but I can link to an item on here and I can actually use automation to link it. So I could go and create another item on a board. I don't necessarily have to move the item, but I could say go automations and item creation, and maybe this is what you're asking. So when a status changes to something, create an item in board. So instead of deleting the lead in our first example, I could create the lead and then also keep the lead and then create the opportunity, and then I could link them together. You wonder if you can link like dual, like bi-directional. It's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head, and I'm just looking at the clock because I know I want to wrap up on time, but I will follow up with you and send you an email back and with some more information on that. I got a factory, so just follow up from Ali there. So I've got a factory team lead who wants to see the production information for a single project vertically. So that's probably a little more complex on that, Ali. If you want, I'm certainly happy to follow up and try and answer that question offline for you. And then I'll include it in the notes when we post this on the our website. So yeah, so perfect. Yeah, I'll follow up with you, Ali. Just so everyone knows, before I wrap up, this is being recorded, so I will post this recording on our website, also on YouTube. On our website, it'll be in blog format, so I'll put some notes in there and also include the answer for Ali if anyone else is curious what that question was. So, so with that, it's 10, so I'm going to wrap up right now. I just want to thank everybody for joining. We really do appreciate your time, and I hope to have you here again next week. Talk to you soon.